Hi, guys, and welcome to the Masterclass of God and Energy Creation. My name is Elaine Basio, and I am a certified health coach specializing in essential oil education. Now, I am also a mom to three kids, but my most important credential is that I am a child of God. And I've been serving Him for the past 20 years or so, ranging from being in the kids' ministry, youth ministry. I was a missions director leading missions teams and also a prayer minister. And I was also on the church board for a little bit. But out of all of those different ministries, my number one passion is about spiritual growth, how to grow in intimacy with God, how to get closer with Him, how to really live this life of abundance that He has promised. And that's why in this class, which is the foundational class for this business, is a class about energy healing, because about 6 years ago, I was tricked by God to learn more about energy healing. And it wasn't something that I was looking for. I was really just thrown into it, having to learn it because of the circumstances. So, in the next 25 minutes or so, I'll be sharing about my journey on energy healing, why I feel that it is an important area for us Christians to redeem for the kingdom of God, because God is very much a part of energy healing, and energy creation. So let's quickly start with my story, how it all began for me. Started 6 years ago when my youngest child was about 9 months old, and she was diagnosed with a condition called cranial synostosis. And I'm going to share some pictures with you. This was when she was about 6 months old, and you could see that her forehead is a little bit protruding. She was kind of born like that, so I really wasn't worried about it. And then when she turned um, about 9 months, you can see her forehead right here. It's getting a lot more protruding, and to the point where the pediatrician actually refer us to Stanford Hospital to get it checked out. So when we were there, we the doctor did some MRI of her brain and the skull and quickly diagnosed her with craniosynostosis, which is the hardening of the sutures of the skull. So to quickly explain it, you guys, if you have held a baby or touch a baby's head, you notice that the head, the top of the crown, it has a soft spot. And that is because that would allow room for the brain to grow. Because in the first 2 years of a child's life, that is when their brain grows the fastest, and in terms of size and in terms of its function. And so the flexibility of the sutures of not closing would allow the brain to grow, right, with the child. Well, for my child at 9 months old, that suture was already closed, meaning that the brain has no room to grow, and it has to grow this way instead. Okay, that's why the forehead, as you were seeing those pictures, was getting more aggressively protruding. And so we were diagnosed with that. And I said, okay, what do we do? And the doctor said, well, it's simple. We're just going to do a surgery. So I said, okay, explain that to me, please. So that surgery meant cutting her open from ear to ear like that. Okay. And then pull down her skin, remove part of the skull, cut the suture open, and then also put slits around the sutures to allow room for the brain to grow. And after all of that is done, they would reinstall the skull back into her with screws all around and then sew her back up. Guys, my baby was 9 months old. My heart sank just hearing about this Frankenstein type of surgery on my baby. So I said, well, what's the alternative? Alternative is that, of course, it will continue to grow like that. So she might look like an alien with a big forehead. But the important part is that it could hinder her growth and that could cause developmental delays. And that's what caught my attention. And I said, of course, we're going to do the surgery if that is the only way. So I had to find that that is the only way. So I told the doctor to give me some time to do some research. And I kid you not, in the next couple of days, I became the expert in craniosynostosis. I read so much about it from books that I got from the library, from the internet. I called different practitioners, really all across the countries, asking if they knew anything about it or if they had a solution for it. And about 98% of the people that I contacted would tell me surgery was the only option. So I was really then preparing myself and the family and my baby for surgery. And so I reached out to a naturopath that I've been seeing for a long time. And she's not just our naturopath, she's a dear friend. She's like a mentor, a Christian mentor to me. She's a woman of God. She prayed with me on many different occasions, very knowledgeable in terms of herbal supplements knowledge, on how the body heals itself. So I reached out to her. Now, at the time I was living in California and she is in South Carolina. And usually how that worked for us is that we would send her samples of our saliva, put a little Q-tip in our mouth, get the saliva sample, put in a Ziploc baggie, and send it to her. And that's been working really well for us. You know, my whole family sees her and for her different clients as well. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to reach out to her and maybe ask for her recommendations on how to nutritionally support and prepare my baby for the surgery. So I contacted her, let her know what was going on. And her answer was really surprising. She said, Elaine, I think I can help you, but not from the nutritional side. I think I'm going to help her with something that is called energy medicine. And she went on to tell me how God has been teaching her about energy medicine for the past 6 to 9 months. And she's been practicing it, using it on different clients, and seeing great results. So I thought, okay, of course I'm comfortable with that because I respect her and I know she's a woman of God. Until she sent me a picture of my daughter, like a drawn up picture, a diagram, and she put down different, for lack of a bit, well, she calls it energy center. So there are different energy centers on her, and she would kind of draw this diagram of where the imbalances on the centers are. So I looked at that, and at the time, I didn't really know a lot about New Age stuff. I try to stay away from that as much as possible. But because of different spiritual deliverance ministries that I was involved in, I knew that those are called chakras. Those are used by the New Age community as a system they call chakras. Okay, there's 7 chakras that they use. And I saw that in the picture and I recognized it right away. And I remember looking at that picture thinking, I am desperate for healing for my baby. I am very desperate for that. But I am not desperate enough to cross the line. If it means that I'm going to um kind of veer off of my path with God, that is not going to happen. Okay. So I call her up the next day. I was very honest with her and I said, you know what? I am just not very comfortable with where you're taking me. Okay. And she, being the amazing Christian mom to me, was very loving in a way. And she said, Elaine, can you hear me out? And I said, of course, I would do that. And she asked me, do you believe that God creates everything? And I said, yes, I believe that He is the creator of all. And she said that, do you believe that He creates energy centers in us? And she went on to say, just because another religion, another culture has discovered these systems, have labeled that, created like their whole religion around it, does it not mean that God was still the creator of it? Does it not mean that God still has a purpose for that and there is redemption for it? And right there and then I was really taken back, but also at the same time, I knew what she said was right because I do believe that God creates everything. And I believe that sometimes the enemy could take what God created and use it and kind of put it in such a way that we Christians would reject it. And so I said, okay, I believe that I could give you that. And she said, well, look at science. Scientifically, it's proven that there are energy flowing in our body system, like the meridians, like the Chinese use. I would know. I'm Chinese. I was born and raised in Hong Kong. ever since I was a little girl, I knew about meridians in our body. So she said, our body is full of meridian and full of these energy that flow through us. And there are specific energy centers where these energy dwells. And we, with God's help, can help affect that. And I thought, well, that is really interesting. And I told her, you know what? Give me some time, please. I need to pray about this with my husband because this is getting bigger than just our daughter. This is about us learning something new, getting into something that, is beyond us. So we started praying. And for the next couple of days, we fasted, we prayed. And I couldn't say that God gave us an answer. Yes, that's the way. But we felt this peace, at a season, at a time where peace really wasn't a dominant feeling. But those couple of days when we were praying about this healing modality, we felt such a peace about it. So I let her know that we will give it a try for 6 months. Okay. And I said, well, 6 months later, we'll evaluate and see where it goes. And she said, cool, we could do it. So for the next 6 months, we had weekly calls with her, and she would use sound therapy, light therapy remotely, do healing prayers. And every session would start with prayer, and she would use the tools that God would ask her to do. And 6 months later, really, really surprisingly, my daughter's forehead started to recede. Okay. And developmentally, I haven't noticed any delays or whatsoever. And she was about 1.5 at the time. So when we went back to Stanford, doctors checked on her, and we got such a classic response. So the doctor was like, okay, like she's looking good. For someone who has craniosynostosis with no surgery, she's looking good. What have you guys been doing? So I share a little bit of what we've been doing with her. And of course, the doctor had no clue what that is, but gave a very classic response. Well, we don't support that. We have no scientific backing on that. But you know what? If it's working for you, keep doing it. Okay, so we went on, we kept doing it for another 6 months. And my daughter has looked so, so good. And what was really surprising, and she was 2 at the time, the doctor wanted us to go back every 6 months. And we went back to Stanford. And this time it was with a different doctor. It wasn't with our original doctor. So I still remember sitting in the room. The doctor came in, and she looked at me. She looked at my daughter, stared at her for a little bit, looked around, and looked at me again, and looked at her chart. And she was like, Elaine, is this Elaine? Are you Elaine? Is this Abby? She thought she went into a wrong room. So I'm like, yeah, I'm Elaine, and that's Abby. And she kept referring back to the chart. So what I learned later on was that she thought she went into a different room because on the chart, from what she read before she came in, was that we have this patient who has craniosynostosis without doing surgery. And she came in and she saw a completely different child. She said, for someone who has that diagnosis with no surgery, the child should not be looking like that, should not be looking so good, so normal. So again, she was really impressed, and she said, you know what, you guys are clear. You don't even have to come back for 6 month checkup. You guys are clear to go. And I remember I was so blown away. Well, number one, as I was relieved because it felt like it was a battle that was going on for like a year or two, right? Because we didn't know if we were doing the right thing. We didn't know what would happen to her without doing the surgery. It was a step of faith for us. And for the doctor to validate and say, yes, that was a good decision, and you guys are reaping the fruits of it. And I remember that day, drop off my daughter at my mom's, and I was just so overwhelmed with emotions, with gratitude. I drove up to my prayer mountain. It was like 10 minutes from my house, that it's up on a hill. I usually go there to pray, to meet with God. And I drove up to the prayer mountain, and I looked over to the city and really just filled with gratitude to God. And I said, God, thank you so much for what you did, or what you've done to my daughter, to our family. And I remember specifically saying, I want to thank you for allowing me to be open minded to energy medicine so that my child could go through what she went through instead of a traumatizing experience in having the surgery. And I, without a doubt, I could hear it wasn't an audible voice from God, but you know how when we hear God, we know we hear him. And I remember him telling me, now go tell other Christians about it. Because I felt like as Christians, we reject energy medicine very readily, mainly because, again, with my experiences, I think it was just a new age thing. It wasn't of God. And I was just grateful that God allowed me to be open minded enough to receive it and to allow him to teach me that. So I believe at that moment on my prayer mountain, I received this calling of God asking me to share my experiences and share what I have learned with other Christians so that, you know, we can all reap the benefits of what God has created instead of being blindsided by the enemy thinking that that's not of God. But I haven't, really had the, I would say, not passion, but the courage to share it. And I thought, you know what? I needed to learn more. As I share with people, they're going to ask questions. I needed to know more. So in the past couple of years, I really have really dived into the area of energy medicine, what it is all about. What did the Bible say about it? I know for sure that we might not be able to find specific energy medicine examples, although I have found some, so I'm going to share with you. But I know also that there are principles in the Bible that we can draw from so that we could guide our lives through that. So that was my intention, is to learn more about energy medicine, what it truly is, and try to find some biblical references for it. And so, as I mentioned, I found there's so many different things about energy medicine that's all around us. It's actually really simple, like acupuncture is a form of energy medicine, as I will share with you about meridians, right, in our body. And I still remember when I went to an acupuncturist when I was a young child, I injured my knee from sports, and acupuncturist put a needle on my arm. And I was like, wait, this is not right. My injury was in my knee. And she was like, well, she showed me a picture on the wall, right? Showed me the pictures of the meridians, which I was familiar with, as I mentioned, growing up as in China. And she said, there are energy flowing all around our body. And because the meridian in your knee goes up here, so by putting the needle here, will clear out the energy, will clear the blockage in your knee, and that will bring down the swelling, bring down the pain. So honestly, for Chinese, we've been using this for thousands of years. And there's also other form of energy medicine. There's sound therapy, there's light therapy, which was basically what my friend used on my daughter. And I started looking at the Bible, right? And when I came to the Old Testament, where King Saul, remember toward the end when God's spirit has already left King Saul, is toward the end of his kingdom of kingship, he was living in turmoil. The Bible says that there were evil, he was tormented by evil spirits every single day. What did he do? Well, in First Samuel, it says that he would have David come and play the harp. It says that whenever David was in his presence playing the harp, he would feel peace. The evil spirit would depart and he would be fine. Now, if that is not a form of sound healing, a sound therapy, I don't know what is, right? So we are seeing examples. We just need to look at the Bible with the perspective of being open minded to see these things that God has already done. And specifically, when I was most impressed was when I started reading about the creation story. Okay. God created the whole earth in 7 days. And this is what I learned that was so fascinating. So the first day God created light, okay? Second day God created the atmosphere and the ocean, so the sky and the sea. Third day he created plants and trees. Fourth day, he created sun, moon, and stars. Now, think about it. On the first day, he created light, but the light giving celestial beings, sun, moon, and stars, were not created until the fourth day. So exactly what did he create? He certainly didn't create light as we know it as sunlight or moonlight. So what did he really create on day one? And I read these studies from theologians that actually says that on day one, God laid the foundation for the order of the universe. Now, God is a God of order. And if you read about it, our universe are governed by some very orderly laws. And one example, one of these universal laws that we're very familiar with is the law of gravity. I I stop touching the this bottle of oil and it drops right away. That is the law of gravity, and that's universal. Whether you're in South Africa or right here in Boise, Idaho with me, the law of gravity works. And there are many different laws like that that govern the universe. Another one that I read about that applies here is the law of vibration. Every created thing has a vibration. So we are all um, made up of small atoms. We think, wow, flesh, well, we have flesh, but we also have atoms as the smallest measure within us. And these atoms actually vibrate, they bounce around. And that is the law of vibration. Everything in the universe has a vibration because of the atoms that's moving around us. This phone here has a vibration. This table here, this desk here, that's my computer is on, has a vibration. It's just that the atoms are vibrating in such a slow pace that it's solid. Okay. So that's the law of vibration. And the interesting thing is that because we vibrate, or different things vibrate at different frequencies, it actually would dictate how we feel mood wise, how we feel physically. And I would give this as an example. What have you ever said or heard someone say, hey, that person is really high vibe, or oh, this is a high vibe place, right? What they're referring to is someone with high vibrations. And what that means is that they're light, they're cheerful, they're happy going, they're easy, and they're attractive. They attract people to them. We all like to be with people who have a high vibe or be in high vibe places. On the contrary, we also have people who are low vibe, or places that we feel like it's low vibe. And those instances, you feel like the person is really heavy, their emotions are really low, they have low energy, and it's just a state of confusion and depression. And when people are in low vibe, that's not a good place to be. So what I have learned is that using energy medicine, this is one of the modalities to help affect the frequency of our vibration. And so what I had done in the past couple of years is to really study how God used these different tools to help us. And God has given us these tools that we can use to affect our own vibrations with his help. And so that's why in this class, and also in the upcoming weeks and days, I will be sharing with you these many different tools that God has given us to help affect our vibration. And one of the first tools that is super powerful in shifting our vibrations from being low to high, it's prayer. Connection with God is the fastest way to bring us up. And prayer is number one. And also gratitude. Gratitude is an area that is so important. When we gratitude is actually an emotion that has the highest vibrational frequency. So even emotions has a vibration, has a frequency that they vibrate at. And gratitude, it's such a high vibe emotion. So I love to encourage people to be in the state of gratitude, or they journal and write about the things that they're grateful for. So that's another tool. Now, another tool that I use extensively to help shift my vibrations are essential oils. Now, God made plants on the third day and he called them good. And he actually has placed different vibrational frequencies in the plants as well. So, as we use essential oils, which are derived from different plants, we are using the plant's frequency to affect ours as well. And to get a little bit deeper into that, too, is that each of our organ also has a vibration or have emotions. Chinese medicine, it's really um, specific on that. Even as a little kid, I know that if our liver is congested, we would have more angry emotions. We even have in Chinese, there are sayings that if someone is angry, the slang that we use is "Wow, his liver fire is so strong." Okay, or fear is an emotion that is stuck in our kidneys. Okay, and so if our kidneys are not functioning well, we have more fear dwelling in us, or if we have fear, then our kidneys will not do well. I mean, it's all interrelated, interconnected. Like God, when he created our bodies, I mean, there's so much intricacy around all of it, and it governs our emotions, our physical health being, and our spiritual health as well. So all of that's are all interrelated. And that's why it is so important when we understand some of the tools that we could use to help shift our vibration and frequency. It's going to have profound impact on our life and our emotions and our health and wellness and our relationships and our definitely in our connection with God. So, as mentioned, in the next couple of days, I will be sharing with you different ways that we could deepen our relationship with God using these tools that He has given us, different ways to affect our health as well. So I am so excited to be sharing more with you. But right now, I just wanted to you to have an open mind, have an open mind of what God can do with you and through you using some of these energy medicine tools. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me as a gift of attending this class, whether you're doing it live or watching the recording. I have a little gift, which is a flyer, a one pager of things, the effective tools that can raise your vibrations. I wanted to kind of get you a head start on some of these tools. You can read about them and start practicing them, and they're going to reap big results on your life. So thank you so much for your time. Blessings on all of you. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye bye.